212 members of Congress have signed a formal resolution calling for impeachment proceedings against Donald Trump. This is not a symbolic protest or routine political maneuver. It is the third such effort in 6 years, and this time, according to sources within the House Judiciary Committee, lawmakers believe they possess strong documentary evidence. When nearly half of the House signs onto a resolution within 72 hours, it signals that something serious has occurred in Washington. Follow this channel for updates, because this story is still developing. So what prompted this rapid escalation? According to multiple reports, a classified intelligence briefing on January 15th presented information suggesting the administration may have communicated with foreign financial institutions in ways that interfered with ongoing federal inquiries. Documents reviewed by several congressional committees reportedly include communications between government officials and overseas banks during sensitive Justice Department proceedings. Legal experts say that if accurate, this could represent a serious breach of presidential obligations, comparable in scale to past historical scandals. When committee leaders from the president's own party support an impeachment resolution, it indicates that concerns have crossed traditional party lines. Tensions between the White House and Congress had already been rising for months, driven by disputes over executive actions, cabinet appointments, and long-standing questions about foreign business connections that investigators had flagged earlier in the fall. But the situation intensified on January 12th, when a Treasury Department whistleblower provided lawmakers with hundreds of pages of transaction records and internal correspondence. According to sources who reviewed the materials in a secure setting, the documents suggest financial activity that appears to align with changes in enforcement actions. In several cases, investigations involving entities connected to administration associates were reportedly paused. Lawmakers who saw the records said the timing raised immediate concerns. On January 14th, the House Judiciary Committee held an emergency closed-door session in a secure Capitol facility. Members expected a routine briefing, but instead received testimony and documents that reportedly left many deeply concerned. Representative Gerald Whitmore, a Republican committee chair who had previously defended the president during earlier controversies, left the meeting without speaking to reporters. Later that evening, his name appeared among those supporting the resolution. During the session, Deputy Treasury Secretary Margaret Collins was questioned about the transaction records and pauses in enforcement. According to multiple lawmakers present, she confirmed that analysts had raised concerns months earlier but were instructed not to proceed with formal reports. When asked who issued those instructions, she declined to answer, citing legal and security limitations. She stated that addressing the chain of command would involve classified matters and that she had been advised not to discuss them publicly. When pressed by committee members about whether investigative delays had been treated as security-related issues, Collins replied that decisions about classification had been made above her authority and that she was uncomfortable with the position she had been placed in. The exchange was later described by participants as a turning point that shifted the tone of the entire inquiry. Many observers have drawn comparisons to earlier historical cases, noting that political fallout often results not from the initial conduct, but from efforts to conceal or interfere with investigations. Analysts point out that allegations involving obstruction of federal inquiries and the use of classification rules to limit oversight raise serious constitutional concerns. According to those who reviewed the materials, the information came from long-serving civil servants rather than political operatives, adding to its credibility. This third impeachment effort differs from earlier ones in several ways. It involves financial documentation, testimony from senior officials, and support from dozens of lawmakers from the president's own party. 47 Republicans signed the resolution after reviewing the evidence. That level of bipartisan concern has not been seen in recent impeachment efforts. Legal scholars across the political spectrum have responded with caution and seriousness. Some who previously defended presidential authority have stated publicly that if the allegations are supported by records, they could meet the constitutional standard for impeachment. Others emphasize that while the president controls the executive branch, that authority does not extend to halting investigations for personal benefit or blocking lawful oversight through classification. Political consequences are already emerging. Markets reacted sharply after reports of the resolution became public. Public opinion surveys show increased support for holding formal hearings. Inside federal agencies, career staff are reportedly preserving records and seeking legal guidance in anticipation of possible testimony. The White House has denied wrongdoing and described the resolution as politically motivated. The president has publicly criticized lawmakers who supported it, including members of his own party. However, critics note that much of the evidence cited comes from government officials appointed by the administration itself and from standard financial records, not opposition research. Former prosecutors have pointed out that if documents were fabricated, senior officials would not be declining to answer questions based on security rules. They argue that refusal to address the chain of command raises further questions about decision-making inside the administration. The broader concern now extends beyond one individual or one policy dispute. It centers on whether executive authority can be used to block lawful investigations and whether oversight can be limited by labeling matters as security-related. Constitutional experts warn that if such practices are allowed, meaningful checks on executive power could weaken significantly. Several senior lawmakers have stated that they reviewed classified materials and believe the public should be concerned about what they contain. They emphasize that their duty is to the Constitution rather than to any political figure, and that facts must guide the process regardless of party consequences. Party leadership is now divided on how to respond. Some argue for challenging the process and questioning how information became public. Others believe the evidence is too serious to ignore, and that continued defense could cause long-term political damage. This internal split is already affecting party unity. Supporters of the president have reacted angrily to Republicans who signed the resolution, calling for primary challenges and accusing them of disloyalty. But analysts note that many of those lawmakers had previously defended the president during earlier controversies, making their shift especially significant. At this point, the resolution has been formally introduced, signatures have been recorded, and committees are preparing for public hearings scheduled to begin on January 22nd. Multiple current and former officials have been subpoenaed, and inspectors general are expected to release additional findings later this month. Legal challenges to subpoenas are likely, and broad claims of executive privilege are being considered. For many Americans, the central issue is whether constitutional accountability still functions when serious allegations involve financial interests and national security claims. The coming weeks will test whether oversight mechanisms remain effective and whether political institutions can act independently of party loyalty. The process has now moved beyond speculation. Records are being reviewed, testimony is being gathered, and lawmakers from both parties are publicly supporting further investigation. What happens next will shape not only this presidency, but also how future administrations are held accountable under the law.